Have you ever walked away from a conversation unsettled? Not angry. Not even confused. Just off. Like something in that exchange left a chill in your chest, but you couldn't quite explain why. Maybe it was the way someone locked eyes with you right before they asked a question. Or the tone they used, friendly on the surface, but sharp underneath, like a smile with a hidden edge. If that sounds familiar, you are not alone. See, the older we get, the more we believe we've seen it all. We've raised families, held jobs, survived storms, emotional and otherwise. We've learned how to spot trouble from a mile away. But here's the truth no one tells you. Manipulation doesn't always wear a villain's mask. Sometimes, it shows up dressed as kindness. And that's why today, we're talking about something rarely discussed but deeply important. The kind of questions people ask, not to understand you, but to control you. These aren't innocent curiosities. They're pressure points. Carefully placed. Crafted to make you second-guess yourself. To push your boundaries without ever raising their voice. And if you're over 60, there's something else you need to hear, loud and clear. People may assume you're easier to sway. That you'll stay quiet to keep the peace. But the truth is, now is the time to stand more firmly than ever in who you are. Not less. More. You've earned the right to protect your peace. You don't owe anyone an explanation for setting limits. And if someone asks you something that tightens your chest, makes your throat dry, or leaves you wondering what just happened, pay attention. That discomfort might be the wisest part of you. Tapping you on the shoulder. Whispering. Something here isn't right. And that whisper might just be the greatest protection you have. Manipulation question number 1. Don't you trust me? When a sweet tone hides a silent pressure. It sounds harmless, doesn't it? Soft. Almost wounded. Like the person asking it has just been cut by your doubt. Don't you trust me? Such a gentle phrase on the surface. But look deeper, and you'll see it for what it really is, not a question about trust, but a test of obedience. Let's paint a picture. You're having a conversation with someone close. A family member, a friend, maybe even a caregiver or a well-meaning neighbor. You ask a simple question, perhaps, "Could you clarify that for me?" Or, "I'm not sure I understood. Could you explain it again?" Instead of offering a clear answer, they lean back, raise an eyebrow, and with a slight tilt of the head say, "Don't you trust me?" And just like that, the mood shifts. Suddenly, it's not about the topic anymore. It's not about understanding or getting clarity. It becomes about you, your character, your loyalty, your supposed lack of faith. And now, you feel cornered. It's no longer a discussion. It's a performance. And you've been cast as the unreasonable one. But make no mistake, this isn't coincidence. It's a subtle form of manipulation. That person doesn't want to clarify. They want to shut you down. And if, like many of us, you were raised to be polite, to avoid conflict, to give people the benefit of the doubt, then you might smile, nod, back off, even as your instincts scream that something doesn't sit right. Here's the truth that age has earned you the right to know. Asking questions is not rude. Seeking clarity is not confrontational. It is powerful. It is responsible. And it is your right. So the next time someone says, "Don't you trust me?" don't take the bait. You don't need to get angry. You don't need to argue. Just breathe. And respond, calmly but firmly, with something like, "Trust matters deeply to me. That's exactly why I ask questions. It helps me understand better." That one sentence does something important. It takes the power out of their hands. It returns the conversation to solid ground. Your ground. Let me share something I learned the hard way. People who are honest, people who care about you, people who are worthy of your trust. They won't flinch when you ask questions. They won't twist your words or make you feel small. They'll welcome your curiosity. Because they've got nothing to hide. They're not offended by your need for clarity. They respect it. So next time your gut whispers that something's off, don't ignore it. That whisper might just be your wisdom speaking. And remember, protecting your peace doesn't require permission. You've lived long enough to know you don't have to explain yourself to anyone who demands your silence in the name of trust. Manipulation question number 2. Why would I lie? When charm is used to silence your intuition, it sounds so reasonable, doesn't it? Why would I lie? Just 5 simple words. Calm. Measured. Almost amused. As if the idea that they could be dishonest is laughable. But pause. That question isn't answering your concern. It's deflecting it. It doesn't clarify a thing. What it does is put you on the defensive, as if your very act of asking a question is an insult. Suddenly, the spotlight moves away from what they said and shines squarely on your doubt. A sleight of hand. An emotional magic trick. One moment, you're seeking clarity. The next, you're explaining yourself for even asking. Picture this. Someone comes to you, a cousin, a longtime acquaintance, even a friendly neighbor. They offer you an opportunity. Maybe it's a new business venture. Maybe it's a family story that just doesn't quite add up. You hesitate. You ask a reasonable question. And instead of details, they tilt their head, smile, and say, "Why would I lie?" And now you're caught. Because the truth is, most of us want to believe the best in people. Especially those who seem kind, familiar, or have shared parts of our lives. But here's what I've learned after years of watching this unfold. People don't lie because they have a noble reason. They lie because they want something. Maybe it's control. Maybe it's to cover a mistake. Or maybe it's to save face. Don't let that question override your instinct. If something doesn't feel right, keep asking. Keep digging. That's not rudeness, it's wisdom. When emotions start to swirl, pull yourself back to center. Ask, does this add up? Can I verify it? Am I being gently pressured to stay silent? If the answer is yes, that's your cue. Not to panic, but to proceed with care. Let me tell you about someone I once knew. Her name was Helen Crawford, and she was 76 at the time. One autumn afternoon, a great-nephew she hadn't seen in years came knocking. Charming young man. Polite. Said he was launching a tech business. Just needed a little help to get started. Helen, always gracious, asked a few questions: where the business was registered, who his partners were. He gave her a warm smile and said, "Come on, Aunt Helen, why would I lie to you?" And with that, she felt embarrassed for even asking. She didn't want to seem suspicious. So she wrote the check. Months later, she learned there was no business. No partners. No product. Nothing. But what hurt most wasn't the lost money. It was realizing she had abandoned her instincts. Because someone made her feel guilty. For protecting herself. That's how this tactic works. It doesn't yell. It doesn't argue. It whispers. It charms. It makes you feel like the wrongdoer. But you are not. Not now. Not anymore. Because once you've seen this tactic, you can't unsee it. Truth doesn't fear questions. It stands up under them. It invites clarity. Only lies need to hide behind charm. Only manipulation needs to make you feel small. So if someone ever tries to quiet your gut with "why would I lie?" pause. Breathe. And don't be afraid to ask again. You don't owe anyone blind faith. But you owe yourself one thing above all. Peace of mind. And sometimes, that peace begins with one brave question. Let's keep going. Manipulation question number 3. Can you keep a secret? When quiet loyalty becomes a silent trap, it sounds innocent enough. Even flattering. Can you keep a secret? They might lean in, lower their voice, look you straight in the eye. And in that moment, it feels like you've been invited into something sacred. A private world, a trusted circle, a bond between just the two of you. But sometimes, that invitation isn't about connection. It's about control. Because what they're really asking might not be, can you be discreet? But rather, will you stay silent, even if what I'm about to say makes you uncomfortable? Now, let's be fair. Not every secret is a red flag. We all need safe spaces, people we can confide in. Privacy is part of being human. But when secrecy is used as a tool to bind your silence, before you even know what you're agreeing to, that's not trust. That's a trap. Let me tell you a story. There was a man named George Whitman, 68 years old, retired after decades working at a local engineering firm. Life had slowed down, and he was enjoying his quiet days when a younger former colleague reached out unexpectedly. They chatted for a while. Then, the young man leaned in and asked, "George, can you keep a secret?" George, being kind-hearted and loyal by nature, didn't think twice. He said, "Sure." What followed was troubling. The young man revealed that their former manager had secretly trimmed down employee pension benefits, including George's. And just like that, George was trapped. He had given his word. He felt bound to keep silent, even though the issue directly impacted his own retirement, even though the injustice stung, even though every part of him wanted to act. That is the power of that question. It ropes you in before the truth is even revealed. It takes your good intentions, your loyalty, your kindness, and quietly wraps them around your throat. So the next time someone asks, "Can you keep a secret?" Pause. Before you answer, ask yourself, why is secrecy needed here? Is it to protect someone or to conceal something? Are they opening up to you sincerely? Or dragging you into something they don't want to face alone? One of the strongest things you can do in that moment is not to agree immediately. You can simply say, "That depends on what it is." Or, "Tell me first, and I'll decide if it's something I can keep to myself." That small shift puts you back in control. You're no longer agreeing to silence before understanding the stakes. And if what they share goes against your values, if it's something unjust, harmful, or unethical, you have every right to say, "I'm sorry. I can't keep that to myself." That's not betrayal. That's integrity. That's you choosing truth over pressure. And you are never too old or too polite to stand tall in what you believe is right. In fact, that may be the strongest thing you can do at this stage in life. Manipulation question number 4. Who told you that? When curiosity is a disguise for deflection. It sounds like such a simple question, doesn't it? Who told you that? But don't be fooled by its calm tone or casual delivery. Because that question, it doesn't seek understanding. It seeks to unravel your confidence, thread by thread. Have you ever voiced a concern, maybe about something you heard, or a behavior that didn't sit right? And instead of being met with curiosity or compassion, the other person narrowed their eyes and asked, "Who told you that?" Not, "What made you feel that way?" Not, "Let's talk this through." Just, "Who said it?" And with that, the focus shifts. Suddenly, the conversation isn't about what was done or said. It becomes about your source, your loyalty, your right to even ask. You feel like the one on trial. Not for lying. Not for accusing. Just for knowing. And if you're someone who values fairness, who avoids unnecessary conflict, you may feel that urge to retreat, to protect the person who confided in you. Or worse, to question whether you should have brought it up at all. But here's what you must remember. You are absolutely allowed to question anything that disturbs your peace, especially when it concerns your well-being, your safety, or your emotional health. When someone deflects with, "Who told you that?" it often means they're not ready to take responsibility. Because if they were, they'd respond with answers, not accusations. Let me share a story. A man I knew, let's call him Walter Monroe, 71 years old, had just discovered a troubling issue involving his retirement benefits. Months after leaving the company he'd given 3 decades to, he learned that some of his entitled pension had been quietly slashed. So he did the brave thing. He approached his former supervisor, not with anger, not with blame, but with calm questions. And do you know what the supervisor said? Not, "Let me look into that." Not, "There must be some mistake." No. The first thing out of his mouth was, "Who told you that?" Sharp. Cold. A clean pivot away from the issue and directly onto Walter. That moment told him everything he needed to know. Not just about the pension, but about the person behind the desk. So if someone hits you with that same question, "Who told you that?" you don't owe them an answer. You are not on trial. Instead, take a breath. Hold steady. And say something like, "Let's focus on whether it's true, not where I heard it." That one sentence does something powerful. It recenters the conversation on truth. Not gossip. Not blame. Truth. And most importantly, it protects your dignity. Without raising your voice. Without playing their game. Clarity like that takes courage. But that's a courage you've already earned. After 60, you don't need permission to trust your gut. You've lived long enough to know the signs. To sense when someone is avoiding the truth and trying to turn the spotlight on you instead. One of the greatest freedoms that comes with age is this. You no longer have to tiptoe around people's egos. You no longer have to sacrifice your truth for their comfort. You don't have to let guilt drive your decisions. You can choose calm over chaos, clarity over confusion, self-respect over silence. And no, you don't have to do it perfectly. You just have to begin. With a pause, a breath, a single, steady sentence that says, "I won't be manipulated." That's how we reclaim our strength. Not through shouting, not through fighting, but through standing tall in our awareness. We're almost finished. But there's still one more question I want to share with you. A final, subtle phrase, so gentle it often slips by unnoticed. But if left unchallenged, it can do more damage than you'd ever imagine. Let's talk about it next. Manipulation question number 5. Don't you remember? When doubt is used as a weapon, it sounds harmless, almost caring. Don't you remember? But few questions can rattle the mind quite like this one. Especially as we age, when memory can become a little foggy at times. We forget where we left our glasses. We blank on a movie title. We walk into a room and forget why. It happens to everyone. But when someone deliberately uses your memory against you, that's not forgetfulness. That's manipulation. That is gaslighting. Imagine this. Someone insists that you agreed to something you know, deep down, you never did. Or they say, "We talked about this last week," even though you're certain that conversation never happened. And when you gently question them, they don't get angry. They don't yell. They act surprised, calm, disappointed even. So calm that you begin to wonder, wait, maybe I did forget. Maybe I'm overreacting. Maybe this is all just a misunderstanding. And that, right there, is how gaslighting takes root. Not by changing what happened, but by changing your belief about what happened. It doesn't attack your memory. It attacks your confidence in your memory. And once that seed of doubt is planted, it grows quickly. But here's the truth. People who care about you will never weaponize your uncertainty. They won't twist your moments of confusion to serve their own ends. They won't insist they're right just because you don't remember every detail. Manipulators, on the other hand, they wait for hesitation. They count on it. Because the moment you begin to question yourself is the moment they gain control. Let me tell you about a woman named Evelyn Blake, a retired school teacher in her early 70s. Her daughter had asked to borrow some money, a small amount, for something urgent. Evelyn agreed, of course. She was always willing to help. But months later, Evelyn casually brought it up, just wondering when it might be repaid. Her daughter's face changed. "Mom, don't you remember?" she said, a little hurt. "You told me it was a gift." Evelyn was stunned. She had no memory of saying that. In fact, she was almost certain she hadn't. But her daughter was so confident, so detailed in her recollection, that Evelyn began to doubt herself. Maybe I did say that. Maybe my memory is slipping. That doubt haunted Evelyn for weeks. Not because of the money, but because something inside her broke. Her trust in her own mind. And that is the cruelest part of this kind of manipulation. It doesn't just damage relationships. It damages you. But here's what I told Evelyn, and what I want you to remember. Your memory may not be perfect, but your intuition is powerful. You know the difference between a genuine misunderstanding and a quiet, calculated rewrite of the truth. You can feel when someone is trying to clarify versus when someone is trying to erase. So how do you protect yourself? First, take a moment. If someone says, "Don't you remember?" and you feel that wave of panic tightening in your chest, pause. Don't agree. Don't argue. Just breathe and say, "That doesn't sound familiar to me. Let me think about it." That simple phrase gives you space. It puts the brakes on the manipulation. Second, write things down. It doesn't matter if it's a sticky note on the fridge or a small notebook by your phone. Keep track of important conversations, dates, promises, agreements. You don't need a perfect memory when you have black and white clarity on the page. This isn't about paranoia. It's about peace of mind. And third, maybe most important of all, trust yourself. You have lived a full life. You've made decisions, resolved conflict, cared for others, and weathered more storms than most. You've earned the right to believe in your instincts. If something feels off, don't dismiss it. You don't need to be 100% certain to stand your ground. You only need to stand in your values, your awareness, and your right to ask questions, no matter your age. Let me say this as clearly as I can. Your mind is not up for negotiation. Your awareness, your clarity, your voice, they belong to you. And anyone who tries to shake that, twist it, or erase it is not acting out of love. They are seeking control. And you are under no obligation to surrender to that. Let's pause for a moment. Take a slow, deep breath together. Today's conversation has been heavy. We've peeled back the layers of subtle manipulation. And if any of it struck a chord, if something inside you stirred, you are not alone. Countless good, kind-hearted people have found themselves caught in these emotional traps. Not because they were weak, but because they cared. Because they valued fairness. Because they believed in connection. Because they were trying to be decent human beings in a world that doesn't always play fair. But here's the truth. Caring about others doesn't mean silencing yourself. Fairness doesn't mean falling for falsehoods. And seeking connection should never require you to sacrifice your inner peace. The good news? Every one of these manipulation questions. Don't you trust me? Why would I lie? Can you keep a secret? Who told you that? Don't you remember? They all begin to lose their grip the moment you recognize them. That's the key. Awareness, calm, clarity, the tools of wisdom, hard won over a lifetime, paid for with your experiences, your pain, your resilience. So take a minute. Let it all sink in. If you've ever walked away from a conversation feeling off balance, if you've doubted yourself, second-guessed your memory, or felt guilty for simply asking a question, you weren't weak. You were waking up. And that awareness, that quiet knowing inside you, that's your power. You don't need to shout to be strong. You don't need to be suspicious to be wise. You only need the quiet strength to say, I will not be coerced. I will not be shamed. I will ask what I need to ask. And I will not apologize for doing so. Because that is the foundation of real trust. Not blind loyalty. Not silence. But truth. And it begins with you. So if this message resonated with you, if something here gave you comfort or clarity, I'd love to hear from you. Share your thoughts in the comments below. Have you ever faced one of these subtle manipulation questions? How did you respond? And now that you see the pattern, how might you respond differently? And if this content felt helpful to you, please consider liking and subscribing to Wise Elders Tales. This channel was created to walk alongside you in this chapter of life, with strength, with awareness, and with practical tools to help you navigate everything that comes with aging. The joys, the challenges, and the incredible power of living true to who you are. I wish you peace. I wish you clarity. I wish you confidence. No matter your age, you've earned your wisdom. You've earned your voice. And you deserve a life where trust is not demanded, but respected. Where it's not forced, but freely given. Where it's not taken for granted, but rooted in sincerity. So stay strong. Stay awake. And remember this. The clearer you see the truth, the harder it becomes for anyone to take your power away.